As I said in the last video, I'm going to make one today showing you how to remove all the side fairings and raise the tank so I can run the power cable from this Midland Bike Play Guardian Apple CarPlay unit back to the battery. The first place to start when you're taking the fairing off is right at the very bottom. You'll see it's got this rivet right in the bottom of the belly pan, and then there's another one like that just behind the back wheel, the front wheel, at the back of the front wheel. Okay, we'll do that next. So this is the second one of these rivets. You just put a screwdriver in, give it a twist, and that pops it up, and it just pulls out. After you've removed the two rivets from the belly pan, well, the one underneath, the one behind the back, the front wheel, there are 3 of these, counting from the bottom here, 3 of these expanding rivets, so one just behind the indicator and one just above the indicator. Now you remove these by pushing in the centre. You can use a screwdriver or a little Allen key or something like that. It's kind of tricky trying this. Once you've pushed the centre in, they just come out like that. And then to put them back in, it's the reverse of the removal. You pull the pin in the middle up, and then you can pop it back in the hole and push the centre bit down, and that's it locked. So you remove 3 of those from the bottom, working your way up towards the handlebars. Still working at the bottom of the fairing, you remove these 2 studs. It's a 5mm Allen key. On the inside of the fairing, so between the handlebars and the inside of the fairing, there's another 2 of those little pop rivets. Now if you were only taking the fairing off and you weren't removing the fuel tank, you would just remove this one here. But because I'm going to go ahead and take the fuel tank off as well, or lift the fuel tank, I'll just pop this other one out at the same time. I've just noticed when I was in there, there's actually a third one of these that goes through the cowling for the ignition lock. So I'll just remove that when I'm in there. And the last thing you want to remove are these bolts on the fairing. There's one there just below the headlight, one just below the USB port, and a third one just next to the steering lock. So it's a 4mm Allen key for these. So once you've got those 3 bolts out, if you pull this here, and then you can slide the whole thing forward. need to unclip the fairing from round about the plastic that's behind the front wheel. So once you've got that side fairing slid back, the plug for the indicator just unclips off the bike, and then there's a plug with a wee tang on it that holds it in place. You can see it there. Push down at the end of the plug and it moves the little clip down, and then you can just pull it out, and that's it. In order for us to remove the fuel tank, we now have to remove this panel here. To do that, we need to remove this screw, and then there's another one in behind, just there. You can just see it in front of my finger. So we'll get that out, we'll get that one out, and then this held on with some Velcro tabs along the side of the fuel tank. And there's a little one of these pins on the back that pushes into rubber grommet in the frame. So once we've got that out, we should just be able to slide this back. This screw is a number 3 Phillips. It's actually quite a big screwdriver. The usual ones you would see would be a number 2 size, Phillips number 2. And then I think the bolt behind it is a 4mm Allen key. Can now start to peel this off the tank. There we go. So there's the Velcro tabs, and then this little peg at the back goes in here on the frame. The next part we need to remove to get the fuel tank lifted is this cover around the ignition switch. We've already got most of the bolts out, but there's still one bolt tucked in there. Just there. That's a 5mm Allen key, there's one on both sides. So once we've got that out, we should be able to just slide this up. I'm using one of these Allen keys. It's got a ball in the end of it. I don't think you'd be able to do this with just a normal Allen key. It's really quite tight. That's what I mean by the ball. So you can get into spaces like that. Put the Allen key in at the fasteners at an angle. This is probably going to be really fiddly, but it should just slide up, and then you need to lift these bits at the side out of the way. You just need to very carefully manoeuvre this around the plastic that the side panels fit onto. Next item to remove is this cover here. Now again, it just pulls up similar to the side panels below the tank. It's got two of those little plastic pegs that go into rubber grommets, so you just need to hook your fingers in here and pop it up. There'll be one on the other side. that to the side, and then we want to remove these two bolts. So these bolts are the 10mm socket. I'm using a really big long extension so I can keep my tools away from the fuel tank. So that's one bolt out. That's the second bolt out. So now we've got those two studs out. The fuel tank should just lift up. Just manoeuvre it around these side panels. That's the power cable installed. The Thunderbox connection's just sitting under here, and that's your power cable and your earth. Tucked under the main harness here. Just runs alongside the battery box. It comes out the other side, and then I've just followed the main limb all the way up the side of the bike. Then tucked in front of the airbox, just there. So from the front of the airbox, the cable go down under the main frame, and I've brought it out here along with other wiring, and then just run it up through that cable clamp at the front of the bars there. And this is the power cable. The two cables for the camera, I'm not going to use those. I'm just going to put some heat shrink on the end just to seal them up, and then I'm going to cable tie all the three wires up along here, nice and tidy. When refitting the side panels, you need to locate these hooks along the front into the holes in the fairing. You can see the two of them under there, and there's another two on the front there. And remember to plug in your indicator wire. And then remember and clip that back into the fairing. And line up all your little hooks and slide it forward. And that's it. Push that little rubber mounting peg back in, and then you can put your bolts and expanding rivets back in. And it's the same for the other side. Put your indicator wire in first, reclip it into the side panel, line up all the hooks with the holes first, slide it forward and sit it in, push that peg in. As you can see, the depth of the plastic there, and these bolts have got a little shoulder on them, so it's important to make sure that shoulder goes down into that hole. So what I usually do first is just move the fairing just to make sure that shoulder's going down in the hole properly and you're not crushing the plastic. And then I'll tighten that one up, and then I won't tighten any more up until I've got all the bolts located in all the holes and all the expanding rivets back in.